imagine choosing your outfit for a massive event, not based on how it looks in the mirror, but based on the click-through rate of a YouTube thumbnail.
Right, which sounds completely backwards to how we usually think about fashion.
It really does. But I mean, think about that for a second. We are sitting here in 2026, and the ultimate dress isn't just a piece of clothing anymore. It has essentially become a kinetic piece of viral content.
Yeah, it completely flips the script on how we understand design. You aren't just dressing for the people in the room anymore.
No, you're dressing for the algorithm.
Exactly. You are dressing for a 15-second vertical video, for golden hour lighting and for the social media grid. And the designers, they absolutely know this.
They're building it right into the fabric.
They are. They are architecting physical garments specifically to maximize digital real estate.
Which is exactly what we're tearing apart today. So if you are listening to this and you happen to be planning a big celebration, or, even if you're just endlessly fascinated by how digital culture actually physically alters the clothes we wear, you are in the right place.
It's a fascinating shift to watch unfold.
It really is. Today, our mission in this deep dive is to look at the absolute zenith of 2026 fashion. We're looking at the mermaid silhouette with the dramatic flair.
The absolute biggest trend of the year.
Right. But we are not just going to sit here and talk about pretty dresses. We're going to deconstruct the engineering behind this gown, the psychology of the people who actually wear it, and crucially, how everyday people are pulling this off.
Because you really can't just stumble your way into this look.
No, you need serious help. Which is why we'll be spending a lot of time later on how modern planners use the Weddizer website for fashion and styling purposes. Because if you want to know how to deal with wedding events guidance through the article section on the website, especially related to niche situations, that platform is basically mandatory now.
It's essential. You truly cannot just walk into a random boutique and hope to, magically achieve this aesthetic.
Exactly. It's just too complex.
This specific silhouette is incredibly demanding. I mean, it is unapologetic, it is structurally rigorous, and it requires a blueprint to execute correctly.
So let's start with the physical reality of the dress itself. Because I'm looking at photos of these gowns from recent European runways, and honestly, they look like they defy gravity.
They really do play tricks on the eye.
How does this garment actually work? Because the fundamental definition of this 2026 mermaid silhouette seems to be a dress that acts almost like, a corset from your collarbone all the way down to your knees.
Right.
And then it suddenly erupts into this massive architectural bell shape.
Yes. It is entirely about tension and release. That's the core philosophy.
Yeah.
To understand the anatomy of this dress, you have to think of it in two completely distinct structural zones.
Okay, lay out the zones for me.
So zone 1 is the compression zone. From the chest, down through the torso, over the hips, and right to the kneecap, the fabric is actively pulling inward.
Oh, wow. So it's not just fitted, it's compressive.
Exactly. It's engineered to hug the body with intense precision, creating this hyper-exaggerated hourglass shape. You are essentially locked into this sleek, highly controlled cylinder.
Which sounds, frankly, terrifyingly restrictive.
No, it requires immense physical confidence, absolutely, because you are entirely exposed in terms of your natural silhouette. But then you hit zone 2, which is the dramatic flare.
Right at the knees.
Right at that knee line, yes. The compression suddenly ends and the dress just explodes outward. We are talking heavily layered skirts, structural waves of fabric, and often these massive cathedral-length trains that trail behind you.
The image that keeps popping into my head is a champagne bottle popping.
Oh, I love that analogy.
If you think about it, you have this tightly contained, highly pressurized liquid held inside a sleek, rigid glass bottle. Everything is perfectly compressed and held in place.
Right, the tension is just waiting there.
Yeah, and the second you pop that cork, you get this sudden, dramatic, celebratory release of energy and volume at the very end.
That is the perfect visual. And what is so compelling about that champagne pop architecture is how it physically alters the behavior of the person wearing it.
It changes how they move.
Dramatically. We always talk about how you choose clothes to express your personality, but we very rarely talk about how your clothes dictate your actions.
That's a great point.
When you put on a dress that is tailored that tightly from your chest down to your knees, you physically cannot slouch. The garment literally refuses to let your spine collapse inward.
It's like a wearable posture coach.
Exactly. It enforces a posture of absolute confidence. You carry your shoulders further back, your chin goes up.
Because you literally have no other choice.
Right. Right. And because your knees are somewhat restricted before the flare begins, your stride changes too. You can't take massive, lumbering steps.
So no power walking down the aisle.
No power walking. You have to glide. The dress forces you to inhabit this very specific, elevated main character energy just to move from one side of the room to the other.
But wait, this brings up a huge contradiction for me. If you think back to just, I don't know, a few years ago, the entire industry was obsessed with the exact opposite of this.
Oh, the quiet luxury era.
Yes. Weren't we all just worshiping at the altar of quiet luxury? It was all about the effortless, minimalist, 90s style silk slip dress.
Backyard boho look, yeah.
Exactly. The goal was to look like you woke up, rolled out of bed, threw on a wisp of silk, and just casually wandered into a rustic barn. Why the sudden pivot to a dress that forces you to glide like European royalty?
You are identifying the exhaustion point of minimalism.
The exhaustion point.
Yeah, quiet luxury and the effortless aesthetic were beautiful, but eventually the pendulum always swings. And for a lot of people, the pressure of looking effortless is actually incredibly exhausting.
I can see that. It takes a lot of effort to look like you aren't trying.
It really does. When you are told for a decade that the choicest thing you can do for a massive, expensive celebration is to wear a plain, unadorned column of fabric, it starts to feel like a denial of the celebration itself.
So you're saying people are just tired of whispering on a day they are spending tens of thousands of dollars on?
Precisely. The 2026 Mermaid with the dramatic flair is the total antithesis of quiet luxury. It is loud luxury.
Loud luxury. I like that.
The data we are seeing shows a massive surge in European-inspired glamour, specifically pulling from Parisian and Italian couture houses.
Right. And they've never been big on the whole rolled out of bed look.
Never. These regions have always been the gold standard for unapologetic structural grandeur.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
If you are asking hundreds of people to fly to a location, sit in chairs, and look at you, you might as well give them a visual spectacle.
And that is the exact psychological driver here. The modern bride in 2026 is saying, I am the center of this event, I am taking up physical space, and I am not apologizing for the theater of it.
Okay, but theater requires a set, and this dress requires some serious raw materials. Let's talk about gravity.
Physics.
Yes, because when I look at that dramatic flare starting at the knees, I don't understand how it doesn't just immediately collapse into a puddle of fabric around the person's ankles.
It looks impossible, right?
It does. How do you build a European couture aesthetic out of soft textiles?
You build it the exact same way you build a bridge.
With steel cables.
Close. With hidden structural engineering. The physical drama of that flare relies entirely on the interplay of three highly specific fabric categories.
Okay, let's break those down.
You have tulle, you have satin or silk, and you have lace and embroidery. And you cannot just sew them together randomly. Each one performs a distinct mechanical function.
So it's an engineered machine. Let's start with tulle, because I think most of us, when we hear that word, we just picture a flimsy ballet tutu.
And that is the biggest misconception. In the context of this silhouette, tulle is your industrial scaffolding.
Scaffolding.
It is the secret weapon. Tulle is essentially a tightly woven hexagonal mesh, which means it traps microscopic pockets of air.
Oh, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, so when you layer dozens and dozens of sheets of heavily starched tulle underneath the outer skirt, those layers push against each other.
They resist each other.
Exactly. They create incredible structural rigidity. The tulle is what forces the skirt to stand outward horizontally from the knee, fighting gravity.
So the tulle is doing all the heavy lifting in the dark, basically.
Precisely.
It's like the suspension system holding a car off the ground.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. And once you have that robust suspension system in place, you need the sleek exterior to cover it up.
The body panels.
Right. That is where your satin and silk come in. You drape the heavy satin over the tulle scaffolding. Satin is woven specifically to have a highly reflective surface.
It catches the light.
It acts like a high-gloss premium paint job on a sports car. It looks sleek. It looks incredibly modern.
Which leaves the lace and the embroidery. If the tulle is the suspension and the satin is the sleek exterior paint job, where does the lace fit into this engineered machine?
The lace is your custom bespoke leather interior.
Okay, I love that.
It provides the texture and the heritage. If a dress is purely structural tulle and glossy satin, it can look a bit too much like a modern art installation.
Almost too architectural. A bit cold.
Exactly. Cold is the right word. By strategically placing intricate lacework, maybe trailing down the bodice or edging the bottom of the flare, You bridge the gap.
You round up.
Right. You bridge the gap between this aggressive modern architectural shape and the historical romance of a wedding.
That is fascinating. So you are literally constructing a vehicle for the human body.
Pretty much.
But just like a car, once you build the chassis and the body out of those precise fabrics, the color you choose completely changes the entire vibe of the machine.
Oh, color is everything here.
And looking at the source material for the 2026 trends, it seems like pure white is really losing its absolute monopoly.
It is a massive psychological shift. White is, of course, still present for highly traditional events. But the aesthetic we're analyzing today is heavily leaning into two new color palettes.
What are we seeing?
Champagne and nude tones, and then soft pastels like blush pink and light beige.
Why champagne? What does shifting a few shades darker actually do for the observer?
It completely recontextualizes the garment.
Oh, so?
Pure white has centuries of very specific and sometimes very heavy cultural baggage. It's about tradition, purity, and standard bridal uniforms.
It says bride in all capital letters.
Yes. When you shift that massive, dramatic architectural dress into a deep champagne or a nude tone, it suddenly looks like editorial high fashion.
It feels more like evening wear.
Exactly. It tells a person looking at it, I didn't get this out of a bridal catalog. I got this off a runway in Milan.
It strips away the traditional label and replaces it with fashion icon. And what about the blush pinks?
The pastels introduce a subversive, playful romanticism. A giant flare in a blush pink is almost winking at the audience.
Like it's not taking itself too seriously.
Right. It is intensely glamorous, but refuses to be stuffy.
But if you, as the listener, are picturing this right now, imagine someone wearing a deep champagne, skin-tight gown that explodes into a massive theatrical flare at the knees. Does that even feel bridal anymore?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, aren't we just crossing the line straight into red carpet Oscars night territory?
That is the exact boundary that 2026 is intentionally blurring. People no longer want to be placed into a separate quarantine category where they have to wear a specific uniform just because they are hosting a wedding.
They want to be the best-dressed person at a gala.
They just want to look like the absolute most elevated, glamorous, powerful versions of themselves. If that means looking like you are attending a film premiere, then the event becomes the premiere, and you are the star. The old rules are completely dead.
Okay, but I have to bring this back to reality for a second.
Okay, hit me.
The old rules might be dead, but the laws of biology and physics are very much alive.
Yes, unfortunately.
A red carpet-worthy dress in a stunning high-gloss champagne satin means absolutely nothing if you can't breathe in it.
That is the real danger of this trend.
Because of the restrictive nature of that chest-to-knee corset effect, execution has to be the single point of failure here, right?
It is the absolute make-or-break element. You can buy the most expensive fabrics in the world, but if the tailoring is off, the dress is a complete disaster.
So who can actually wear this?
Well, structurally, this silhouette is incredibly flattering for a wide variety of body types. It highlights hourglass figures, it emphasizes natural curves, and surprisingly, it is highly recommended for petite frames who want to look taller.
Wait, really? I would have assumed a giant flare at the bottom would swallow a shorter person whole. How does it make them look taller?
It is a brilliant optical illusion. It's created by the continuous vertical line.
Okay, explain that.
Because the dress is skin-tight from the collarbone all the way down past the hips to the knees, the human eye has no horizontal breaks to rest on.
Oh, because normally a waistline or an A-line skirt breaks you in half visually?
Exactly. Here, the eye is forced to travel straight down that long, continuous line of compression before the flare finally breaks the visual field. It essentially elongates the torso and the upper leg.
That's really clever.
It is. But again, that only works if the tailoring is mathematically flawless.
Which has to be an absolute nightmare for a tailor.
The stress levels must be off the charts.
Because think about a standard A-line dress from the waist down. You are basically hiding under a giant bell. If the tailor leaves an extra inch of fabric around your thighs, nobody in the world is ever going to know.
Right, it's forgiving.
But in a mermaid dress, if it is a millimeter too tight at the knee, you are basically immobilized.
The margin of error is absolute zero because the person wearing it is still a human being who has to perform human functions.
Right. You have to sit down in a chair to eat dinner.
You have to take deep breaths to calm your nervous system. You have to walk down an aisle, up a set of stairs, and eventually dance.
It really is like designing a custom wetsuit or a spacesuit.
That is the perfect way to look at it.
Think about the engineering required for a deep-sea wetsuit. It has to perfectly hug every single contour of your body to maintain thermal dynamics, right?
Yes.
But the engineers have to build in articulated panels with different thicknesses so the suit bends with your natural biological hinges, your elbows, your hips, your knees.
Exactly.
If a tailor doesn't understand the kinetic movement of the human body, they aren't making you a couture gown. They are trapping you in a very expensive, very beautiful straitjacket.
That is exactly what happens when people try to cut corners on the alterations. You see people who literally can't sit down.
Which ruins the whole effortless, confident vibe we talked about earlier.
It completely ruins it. And by the way, this is why the footwear is non-negotiable.
Oh, the source mentions heels are required, right?
Yes.
Ugh.
You cannot wear flats with this specific architecture.
Why not? Comfort would be so nice.
Comfort is nice, but you need the height of a heel to dictate the correct angle of the flare hitting the floor. And more importantly, you need the leverage to physically push that heavy tool forward when you walk.
Oh, because the dress is heavy.
Very heavy. Without heels, you're just kicking a wall of fabric.
Okay, so assuming you survive the tailoring process and the dress fits like a second skin and you can actually walk.
A big assumption, but yes.
You arrive at the final physical step.
Yeah.
The accessories. And I have to push back hard on what I've seen in some of these styling guides.
What's bothering you about them?
Because you have a dress that is already shouting. It has a dramatic flare. It has a cathedral train. Maybe it's in a glossy champagne satin. How on earth do you accessorize that without looking like a walking chandelier?
That is the ultimate test of high fashion intellect. It's about curation versus accumulation.
Accumulation being the enemy here.
Yes. When people get nervous about a big event, they tend to accumulate. They think, this is a big day, so I need the big dress and the big necklace and the big earrings and the big veil.
And a tiara, just for good measure.
Right. And that is exactly how you end up looking like a costume. High fashion is about editing.
So what makes the cut in 2026?
If you look at how the top European stylists are treating the silhouette, they are utilizing highly specific juxtapositions.
Like what?
They might choose a massive architectural statement earring, but if they do, the neck is entirely bare.
No necklace at all.
Zero. The statement earring acts as a visual counterbalance at the top of the body to anchor the massive flare at the bottom of the body.
It keeps the eye moving from top to bottom.
Exactly. But the absolute most brilliant styling detail we are seeing in 2026 is the introduction of the minimalist glove.
Wait, gloves? Like a 1950s debutante.
I know it sounds counterintuitive.
It really does. How does adding more fabric to your arms not push this entirely into historical cosplay?
Because of the word minimalist. If you paired this dramatic, heavy tulle gown with ornate, heavily beaded lace gloves, then yes, you look like you were in a period drama.
Which is too much accumulation.
Exactly. But if you pair this loud theatrical dress with a stark, sleek, sheer, completely unembellished opera glove, it creates friction.
Friction between the loud dress and the quiet glove.
Yes. The absolute quietness of the glove contrasts with the screaming drama of the gown. It tells the observer's eye, I know exactly what I am doing. I am in total control of this aesthetic.
It's the visual equivalent of a power pause in a speech.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, it anchors the noise.
Okay, but if you are listening to this right now, your head is probably spinning.
I wouldn't blame them.
We just talked about managing the physics of tool tension, calculating optical illusions for your height, balancing pastel colors against red carpet expectations, and orchestrating the exact minimalist accessories to avoid looking like a chandelier.
It is a lot of information.
It's an overwhelming amount. If you are just a regular person trying to plan an event, this is a logistical and aesthetic nightmare. You don't have a creative director from Vogue living in your guest bedroom to manage all this.
Which brings us to the most crucial technological shift in how people are actually pulling this off. We have to talk about Weddizer.
Yes, let's really dig into this, because this is where theory actually meets practice.
It's the engine behind the whole trend.
Imagine you are the listener.
Huh?
You are sitting at home, maybe you live in the suburbs of Ohio, and you want this exact Parisian couture aesthetic. But you don't know the first thing about millimeter-precise tailoring or minimalist glove styling. How does a website actually solve that problem?
Well, the Weddizer platform has essentially become the central nervous system for executing these complex fashion trends. And you specifically want to use the Weddizer website for fashion and styling purposes.
Right, because most people just think of these sites as big phone books.
Exactly. They think it's just a vendor directory, find a DJ, find a florist, but that's missing the point. You can find out exactly how to deal with wedding events guidance through the articles section on the website.
The articles section, that's where the actual styling happens.
Yes. The true power of the platform lies in its editorial guidance, especially related to niche situations.
Like highly specific event scenarios.
Right. It translates high fashion theory into highly specific, actionable advice. Let's say you want this mermaid flare. You don't just search dress. You go into the Weddizer article section, and you will find guides tailored to your exact niche.
Give me an example of what that looks like.
You might find an article titled, How to Style a Champagne Tulle Flare for an Evening Gala.
So it is contextualizing the fashion for the exact type of event you are throwing.
Exactly. The articles will break down the exact vocabulary you need to use. It will tell you, when you go to the tailor, you need to ask for mobility articulation in the knees.
Which we now know is a matter of life and death for sitting down.
Right. It will explain exactly what height of heel works with that specific skirt volume. It will show you mood boards of how real people balanced a statement earring with a minimalist glove.
So it's basically doing the job of a high-end stylist.
It gives you the architectural blueprint that you would normally have to pay a professional thousands of dollars to create. And it's just sitting right there in the article section, ready to guide you through these niche styling choices.
It is removing the friction between inspiration and execution. Because the beauty of it is the integration,
The
right?
seamlessness of it.
Yeah, you're reading this deeply knowledgeable article on Weddizer about how to ensure your mermaid dress doesn't look like historical cosplay. You get the exact advice you need about sheer opera gloves. And then, without leaving the platform, you can click directly from that styling article into their vendor directory.
That's the magic.
You can instantly find the specific local boutique that carries that exact type of stark, sheer glove and read reviews for the tailor who specializes in high-tension fabrics.
It completely democratizes high fashion. It takes these lofty, intimidating concepts straight from the runways of Milan and places them directly into the hands of the everyday consumer.
With a step-by-step guide on how to build it in their own zip code.
Exactly. It handles the overwhelming logistics so the person can focus entirely on the aesthetic.
Which is absolutely essential because you're going to need all your energy for what happens after the dress is actually built.
Oh, the performance.
Yes. Let's say you've used the Weddizer articles. You found the perfect tailor. The dress fits like a glove, and you are standing at the event. We mentioned this at the very beginning of the show, but we really have to come back to it. In 2026, the physical event is only half the battle.
And the other half is the visual economy.
The visual economy. I love that term. Because this dress was not designed to be looked at while standing still in a dimly lit room, was it?
Not at all. It was engineered for the camera lens.
Right. Because when you look at the styling metadata and the photography tips for this trend, it is mind-blowing. They don't just tell the photographer, make sure you get a wide shot.
No, they are directing the subject.
They are actively instructing the person wearing the dress on how to perform for the camera to activate the garment.
It's choreography. They instruct you to never stand static. You have to capture movement, you have to walk, and more importantly, you have to execute very specific turns.
Turns. Why turns?
Because of centrifugal force.
Oh, wow. Okay, explain the physics of the turn.
When you turn in a dress that has a skin-tight knee compression ending in 50 layers of heavily starched tulle, centrifugal force takes over. The flare physically lifts and spins outward, creating this massive dynamic wave of fabric.
So the dress only really works when it's in motion.
Yes, it's kinetic design. If you just stand there, it's a bell. If you turn, it's an ocean wave.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And they combine that kinetic design with specific environmental instructions, right?
Very strict instructions. The guides explicitly advise shooting during dramatic golden hour lighting and posing against luxurious European-style architectural backgrounds like stone arches or grand staircases.
Why golden hour specifically? Is it just because everyone looks better at sunset?
Well, yes, but it's also structural. The golden hour light specifically interacts with the glossy satin to create high-contrast shadows in the deep folds of the tulle. It highlights the architecture.
It is literally a movie production. You are location scouting, lighting, and choreographing a stunt with a dress.
You are the director of photography for your own life.
And what really blew my mind was the digital metadata driving all of this. The top trends aren't being tracked by magazine sales anymore.
No, not at all.
They're being tracked by YouTube click-through rates. We are looking at titles like Top Mermaid Wedding Dresses 2026, Dramatic Flare, Bridal Trends You Must See, And hashtags like hashtag mermaid wedding dress and hashtag European bride.
Because the feedback loop is entirely closed now.
The designers are watching the data.
They absolutely are tracking those hashtags. They know that if a dress design doesn't move dynamically on a vertical phone screen, if it doesn't look incredible in a 15-second walking video shot at golden hour, no one is going to share it.
And if it isn't shared,
it doesn't trend, and if it doesn't trend, it doesn't sell.
I am simultaneously fascinated and deeply unsettled by this.
It's a lot to process.
We are literally at a point where the physical architecture of a garment, how tightly it hugs your ribs, how many layers of hexagonal mesh are sewn into your knees, is being dictated by what performs best on a YouTube thumbnail. It is algorithmic tailoring.
It is algorithmic tailoring. But, that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
You don't think so?
No, because humans have always tailored their clothes to match the dominant medium of their era.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective.
Think about it. When oil painting was the dominant medium, the aristocracy wore heavily jeweled, static garments that looked wealthy when painted.
Because they had to stand still for hours anyway.
Exactly. When we moved to printed black and white photographs, we wanted high contrast and sharp silhouettes. Today, the dominant medium is short-form dynamic video.
So the fashion has to move.
Yes. The fashion has evolved to be highly performative, kinetic, and visually spectacular in motion. And tools like the Weddizer articles are just helping people navigate this new reality.
So they can be the directors of their own production rather than victims of the algorithm.
Perfectly said.
You are building your own movie set, and you are the star.
Oh.
Okay, we've covered an immense amount of ground today.
We really have.
Let's bring this all together. If you are just tuning in or your head is still spinning from the physics of tool, here is the journey we just went on.
A quick recap.
We started by completely tearing down the physical architecture of the 2026 dramatic mermaid flare. Understanding how that intense chest-to-knee compression acts as a physical posture coach before releasing into that champagne pop explosion of volume.
Right, and we explored the cultural psychology behind this, how people are exhausted by the minimalist, quiet luxury of the past decade and are aggressively pivoting toward the loud, unapologetic grandeur of European couture.
We broke down the mechanics of the fabrics, realizing that tulle is basically industrial suspension scaffolding, while satin is the sleek exterior paint job.
We navigated the zero margin of error reality of tailoring, comparing it to deep-sea wetsuits.
And we realized that true high-fashion styling relies on the juxtaposition of loud dresses and quiet accessories, like the absolute genius of the minimalist glove.
And crucially, we unpacked how regular people are actually surviving this logistical nightmare by using the Weddizer platform, specifically relying on those niche styling articles to translate editorial concepts into actionable reality in their own zip codes.
Right, using it to navigate highly specific niche events. And finally, we pulled back the curtain on the visual economy, realizing that this dress is literally engineered to perform kinetically for golden hour lighting and YouTube algorithms. It is a dress built for the digital era.
It truly is.
Which leaves me with a final, much larger question for you to ponder.
Oh, I'm ready.
If you think about everything we discussed today, if 2026 fashion is entirely about theatrical elegance, dramatic knee flares, and using digital styling Sherpas to curate a highly produced, algorithm-ready editorial look, what does this actually say about how we view our own lives?
That's the real question.
Are our modern celebrations essentially becoming our own personal Met Galas? Are we at a point where every single person, regardless of who they are, expects to step out of their everyday routine and be the main character of their own highly produced, flawlessly styled cinematic movie for a day?
It certainly seems that way.
And honestly, isn't that kind of wonderful? We don't have to whisper anymore. We have the tools, we have the architecture, and we have the platforms to build the exact aesthetic we want. So maybe it is time to stop apologizing, stand up straight, and put on a spectacular show.